Whispers beyond the stars. The chamber echoed with silence, not the serene kind, but the kind that weighed heavy, thick with dread. The Galactic Council's grand hall, once a place of diplomacy and debate, now felt like a tomb. Across the tiers of polished stone seats, representatives of dozens of species sat in hushed tension. All eyes were locked on the center of the room, where a holographic projection floated, flickering, unstable, and terrifying. The image was of a planet, no name, no designation, just coordinates in a dead sector no one had dared to explore. Around the image spun data sets, charts, and energy readings, all erratic. One word kept flashing red across every system: unclassifiable. Council leader Zara stood at the center, her crystalline robes glinting under the pale lights, her expression unreadable. But her eyes, those betrayed something deeper, something fearful. This world is not like the others, she said, voice amplified through the chamber. We've scanned thousands of planets over centuries. We've seen volcanically unstable worlds, gas giants with razor-sharp winds, even moons ravaged by radiation storms. But this, she gestured toward the image, this is a death world. Murmurs rippled through the delegates. A death world. The term wasn't new. It was reserved for planets where biological survival for intelligent life was nearly impossible. Extreme gravity, hostile climates, violent wildlife, toxic atmospheres. But most death worlds were barren, lifeless relics of failed evolution. This one was alive. Explain, rumbled High Strategist Garoon, a six-limbed warlord from the Cryoth Confederation. If the world is so hostile, why do the readings show civilization? Zara turned toward the chamber's core display. Because something lives there, something that thrives in chaos. A second image flickered into view, a short, grainy video captured by a deep-range probe. In it, massive figures moved through a dense, jagged forest. The foliage seemed to shift as if recoiling from them. One of the creatures paused, turned its head toward the probe, and then the feed cut to static. Motion alone shattered the probe's stealth shielding, Zara said. Our analysts believe it wasn't technology, it was awareness, predatory instinct. Another murmur. This one carried a thread of fear. Torn, a blue-skinned diplomat from the peaceful Yavari, raised his voice. Council leader, surely they are not hostile. Perhaps misunderstood, maybe they are simply adapting to a harsh environment. Zara didn't smile. You misunderstand the scale. They were born in fire, raised among storms. Their society, what little we can infer, is built on challenge, survival, and constant motion. Their children are trained in combat before they reach maturity. They don't build empires. They forge resilience. Garoon leaned forward, tapping his clawed fingers on the metal railing. If such beings exist, why haven't we heard of them before? Zara's expression darkened. Perhaps because they never wanted to be found. Or worse, because they were waiting. A chill swept the room. Counselor Vina from the Saren Collective adjusted her neural link, scanning the data again. Their energy signatures don't match any known form of FTL tech. Their language appears guttural, primitive. And yet, they've built defensive structures and signal jammers beyond our decoding capabilities. It's not a civilization, said Zara. It's an organism. The entire world acts like a neural web ecosystem, and culture fused into one purpose: survival. Silence followed. Then a single voice broke it, deep, stern, and unyielding. Then we must test them. All eyes turned to General RAR, a warrior from the Arathi Dominion. His armor reflected the council lights like a monolith of iron. If they pose a threat to galactic peace, we cannot wait for them to act. We must act first. A gasp spread across the chamber. Zara raised her hand. No, not yet. We don't know their intentions. We don't even know if they are aware of us. Exactly, RR slammed a fist against the railing. And when they do become aware, when they decide to leave that world, if we hesitate, we will fall. Zara's voice cut like ice. And if we strike first, if we spark a war against a species designed by their world to endure anything, what happens when they survive our best and come for us? The council was split. Some whispered of containment. Others demanded study. A few, like RAR, wanted war. But Zara, despite the tremble in her spine, took the path of patience. We will not provoke them, she said. We will observe. We will understand. And if we are to make contact, we will send a team. Not soldiers, not spies, but diplomats, scientists, learners. General RR scoffed but said nothing. His time would come. Zara looked back at the image of the death world. The swirling mists, the jagged continents, the energy storms, the silhouette of something moving just beneath the clouds. Because if we are to serve what lives there, she whispered, we must first learn to listen. Far across the galaxy, beyond the charted systems and quiet stars, something watched back. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt small. Welcome to the jungle. The diplomatic ship, sleek and silver, cut through the atmosphere of the Death World like a whisper. It was built for first contact, non-threatening design, low-emission thrusters, radiation-dampening shields. And yet, as it pierced the dense clouds of the hostile planet below, even its hull seemed to shiver. Inside, the delegation sat in tense silence. Jana, a soft-voiced diplomat from the Thyari, reviewed her briefing one last time. She was small, frail by many species standards, but carried a disarming calm. She had brokered peace between warring moons and soothed empires into treaties. But nothing had prepared her for this. Touchdown in 60 seconds, the pilot announced. Surface readings unstable, magnetic anomalies across the terrain. Be advised. The ground below was not like any known world. Forests stretched in every direction, but they were twisted, warped trees with bark like metal vines that pulse faintly with bioluminescent veins in an atmosphere thick with a strange, almost humid energy. Sensors were flickering. Something, maybe the planet itself, was jamming them. As the ship landed with a soft thud on a clearing of jagged stone, the silence outside pressed against the hull like a living thing. Jana turned to her team, 3 scientists, 2 unarmed security personnel, and 1 observation drone. No sudden movements, no threats. We are guests here. The ramp hissed open. Heat, pressure. The air hit like a wall dense, saturated with alien pollen and unfiltered electromagnetic noise. Even breathing felt like defiance. They stepped into the clearing. Almost immediately they were watched. Eyes sharp, unblinking, emerged from the foliage. Figures moved silently between trees. Massive silhouettes with a presence that made every instinct in Jana scream run. But she didn't. She bowed. We come in peace, she said, her translator modulating across frequencies. We seek knowledge and understanding. We are not here to harm. There was a pause, a long one, then a figure stepped forward. She was tall, easily 2 meters, and built like a creature born for war. Muscles coiled beneath practical armor made from what looked like tanned hide and reinforced bones. Her skin was marked with faded scars and war paint. Her eyes, they didn't look at Jana. They assessed her. Kira, she said simply, leader of this territory. Her voice was low, calm, but it carried a weight that made Jana's spine stiffen. Jana smiled gently. I am Jana of the Galactic Council. We've studied your world from afar. We are in awe of your people. Kira's expression didn't change. You came to study or to judge? No, to learn. Kira's lip twitched. Not quite a smile, more like amusement. Then learn this. She turned and gestured to an open field beside them, where several Deathworlders were engaged in combat training. Brutal, fast, 2 were blindfolded. 1 used only 1 arm. Every movement was deliberate, every strike aimed not to spar, but to end. You want respect? Kira said, her voice like flint. Prove it. Survive. Jana hesitated. We're not warriors. Then you're not ready. Before Jana could respond, one of the Council's security officers, Sarek, a tall insectoid from Vithra Prime, stepped forward. I will try. He was trained in over 50 martial disciplines, but what he faced was not martial art. He moved with practiced grace, but the Deathworlder, barefoot, lean and quiet, responded with terrifying efficiency. Every attack Sarek made was met with fluid counter-movement. When he tried to strike high, he was swept low. When he feinted, the Deathworlder didn't fall for it. And when Sarek lost his footing, he was slammed to the ground with bone-rattling precision. Kira watched, unimpressed but not unkind. She offered Sarek a hand up. You move well, but not with purpose. Jana stepped forward again. We mean no disrespect. We simply do not know your ways. Then learn them, Kira said. Survival is not an art. It is a truth. Here, weakness is not forgiven. The Deathworlders melted back into the jungle except for Kira. She remained watching the delegation. If you wish to stay, you must train, observe, earn your place. We do not hand peace like fruit from a tree. You must bleed for it. Then she turned and walked away without looking back. The delegation stood in silence, stunned. Sarek, still gasping, turned to Jana. We're not in control here, not even close. No, she said softly, but maybe that's the point. As night fell, the air grew colder, but the jungle never slept. Eyes still watched from the darkness, and the lesson had begun. Violence with precision, The war room at the Galactic Council's military intelligence headquarters was deathly quiet, unusual for a place typically buzzing with strategic simulations and interstellar threat assessments. Today, however, there were no games, no mock wars, no predicted probability graphs. Only fear. Holographic footage hovered in the center of the room, shaky recordings from the delegation's observation drones. The Deathworlders, caught in their element, were sparring. Not on open fields, not in simulated arenas, but within the twisted jungle itself, on uneven rock, through tangled vines, across sinking mud. General Lyra stood at the front, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "This isn't war," she said quietly. "This is something else." Beside her, Lieutenant Merrick, one of the youngest tactical analysts in Council history, leaned in, eyes wide. "They're not just improvising, they're using the terrain like it's part of their anatomy." On the display, a Deathworld bear rolled beneath a hanging branch to dodge a strike, then used it to swing over his opponent, landing a disabling blow with the heel of his boot. Another one ducked into a thicket of spiked grass, vanishing for seconds, before re-emerging from a completely different angle, silent, unreadable, lethal. "They're incorporating wind light, even scent patterns into their attacks," Lyra said. "Every move calculated, but never repeated. Like jazz," Merrick muttered. "Deadly jazz." General Lyra didn't laugh. She brought up another clip, this one from a night engagement. The footage showed Deathworlders training blindfolded. They stood still for nearly a full minute. No sound, no movement. Then, without warning, 3 of them exploded into action, sparring in total silence, their blows fast, fluid, and terrifyingly precise. They communicated through taps, gestures, even changes in breathing rhythm. "They're training to fight in complete sensory deprivation," Lyra said, turning to the others in the room. "That means they anticipate environments we can't even survive in." One of the senior analysts, a stoic engineer from the Xylary Technate, blinked in disbelief. "What kind of species practices blindfolded combat in a jungle? That's not war doctrine. That's madness." "No," Lyra corrected. "That's experience." She switched feeds again. Now came the part that made her blood run cold. The same Deathworlders were now sparring in simulated ambush drills. Not in teams. In webs, multi-vector coordinated strikes across several flanks. One would retreat, drawing the attacker. A second would distract. The third would flank. And a fourth, previously unseen, would strike from below using terrain-modified traps. One council observer in the footage had labeled it controlled chaos. "It's not chaos," Merrick said. "It's deeper than that. Every failed strike leads into another tactic. Every motion opens a fallback option. They don't fight in lines, they fight like they're part of the jungle itself." Lyra didn't respond immediately. Instead, she brought up biometric overlays of the sparring Deathworlders. Spikes in adrenaline, oxygen intake, muscle reaction time, all of them off the charts. Yet their hearts remained steady. Their brains showed intense focus, but no panic, no tunnel vision, no fear. "They're not adrenaline junkies," Lyra finally said. "They're adapted. Their nervous systems are evolved for this." Another screen flickered on footage of one Deathworlder sparring with 2 opponents while smiling. Not out of arrogance. It was calm, controlled. The kind of smile that came from someone who had faced worse and survived. The council officers watching the recording began to murmur nervously. Merrick turned toward Lyra. "What would happen if we faced them in real battle?" The general was silent for a long time. Then she said, "We'd lose." That word dropped like a meteor. Lyra pointed at the footage, voice hardening. "They don't rely on superior firepower. They rely on exhaustion, terrain, disorientation. Our soldiers are trained for linear combat, direct, predictable. These beings would dismantle our formations before we knew what hit us." She brought up a comparison chart: Council standard tactics, zone suppression, aerial dominance, drone reconnaissance, all countered by what Deathworlders had already demonstrated: cloaking foliage, decoys, low-tech traps, line-of-sight disruption, fear tactics. "They train for total war," Lyra said, "but not to dominate, to survive. And that makes them unstoppable." Silence hung heavy over the room. One voice finally spoke, an old veteran from the Reptari legions. "So what now, General? Do we prepare to fight them or we learn from them?" she said, surprising everyone. "We study their movement, their tactics. We stop treating them like primitives and start acknowledging them as one of the most dangerous strategic cultures the galaxy has ever seen." Merrick nodded slowly. "They fight like they've been at war their entire existence." Lyra looked at the footage one last time. A Deathworlder standing alone in the jungle, blindfolded, calm, waiting, listening, ready. "No," she whispered. They fight like they were born in war. The day the elite fell, the ship that touched down on the Deathworld this time was not diplomatic. It was a war machine, angular black-hulled, humming with shield arrays and armed with gravitic cannons. It carried within it the elite of the Galactic Council's strike forces, Phantom Team 1 veterans of over 50 planetary campaigns, cybernetically enhanced, psychologically conditioned, surgically precise. They didn't come for dialogue, they came for dominance. Commander Rar stood at the ramp, visor lowered, pulse rifle magnetized to his back. His armor shimmered faintly with adaptive camouflage. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. His team moved like shadows, silent, disciplined, deadly. Their mission was simple: infiltrate what was believed to be a Deathworlder stronghold, retrieve data, leave a message: we see you and we're not afraid. But beneath the forest canopy, the jungle whispered a different prophecy. The drop site was quiet, too quiet. Thick vines snaked through the soil like veins. The trees seemed to lean in, watching. Rar's HUD flickered interference. Natural number engineered. Eyes up, he ordered. They moved forward in formation, diamond spread motion, scanning every vector. Even their footsteps were algorithmically randomized to avoid pattern detection. And yet they were already being watched. From the shadows, a dozen pairs of eyes followed their every step. Breath slow, blades ready. The first sign came as a whisper, a crunch of leaves half a second off rhythm. Sergeant Vale spun to respond too late. A figure dropped from above, silent fast, slamming into Vale and disappearing into the underbrush before a shot could be fired. A scream crackled through comms, cut short. Then the jungle exploded. Figures emerged from trees, from underground, from the damn air itself. Deathworlders hit the team like a tidal wave. No formation, no battle cry, only motion and intent. Commander Rar barked orders, plasma rifle blazing. Titan formation, counterstrike pattern theta. Too late. The Deathworlders didn't engage in combat, they disassembled it. Every time the team regrouped, another ambush shattered their lines. Tripwires made of natural fiber, dart launchers camouflaged in roots, spiked pits hidden beneath leaves. One soldier stepped back into a vine, he never even screamed. Private Kale tried to lock onto a target, but his HUD blinked error. Thermal jammed, motion jammed, sound flooded with animal cries on unnatural loops. "This is impossible," he shouted, voice cracking. "They're not fighting fair. They're not fighting a war," Rar growled. "They're fighting us." Then he saw her, Kira, standing at the edge of the battle, arms crossed, observing. Not interfering, just watching. And that told Rar everything. This wasn't a fight. This was a test. He triggered a flare signaling fallback. All units disengage. Fall back to the ship. But the jungle wasn't done yet. The retreat became a slaughter. One by one, soldiers were picked off. Some vanished without a trace. Others were dragged into the tree line screaming. Rar fought like a cornered animal, limbs burning, visor cracked, breathing ragged. He activated his emergency beacon, but even that flickered. By the time the survivors reached the extraction point, half the team was gone. Bloodied, bruised, broken. The ship doors hissed open, and the few that remained stumbled aboard. Rar turned back for one final look. Kira stood there, still silent. She raised one hand, not to wave, not to threaten, to acknowledge. A gesture that said, "You were warned. You are not ready. Next time, we won't let you go." The ship lifted into the sky. Inside, no one spoke. They had entered expecting control. They left knowing only humility. Fear is a weapon too. The Council had called it a tactical setback. But for the soldiers who returned from the Deathworld, it was something else entirely. Commander Rar sat in silence aboard the debriefing vessel, armor, scuffed blood still dried beneath his jawline. He wasn't answering questions. He wasn't making reports. He just stared. Not in defeat, in calculation. Meanwhile, back on the Deathworld, the real campaign had begun, and it didn't involve plasma rifles or orbital strikes. It involved mines. The Council, determined not to appear weak, dispatched a second wave, not a strike force this time, but a fortified observation team. Dozens of soldiers and technicians, environmental scanners, auto turrets, supply drones. They set up outposts around the jungle's edge, determined to hold a presence. And at first they succeeded, but the Deathworlders didn't attack. They watched, they waited. Then slowly they began to whisper. It started with sounds, unnatural ones. Each night, soldiers heard laughter echoing through the jungle. Not wild, not mocking, just patient, controlled. Sometimes it came from nowhere, sometimes from behind them, and sometimes impossibly inside the base. Then came the symbols painted in ash and blood just outside camp boundaries. None were repeated. All were unnerving. Twisting spirals, animalistic eyes, diagrams that resembled council-based layouts. Next came the disappearances. First, it was small rations missing. Medical kits opened but untouched. Messages written in dirt. Still watching. Then a sentry vanished from his post. No signs of struggle, no trace, just his helmet placed neatly on his bedroll. Paranoia infected the camp like a virus. Security doubled, then tripled, but it didn't help. Someone or something was always one step ahead. They set up motion sensors. The Deathworlders triggered them using wild animals. They set traps. The traps were disarmed and reassembled in different locations, sometimes turned against their creators. At night, soldiers began refusing patrol duty. They claimed to see shadows moving against the wind, to hear voices calling their names from the jungle, to dream of being watched, only to wake up with muddy footprints beside their bunks. The camp's morale crumbled. Council psychologists attempted group therapy. Their notes described acute insomnia, hallucinations, dissociation. Classic fear trauma, one report read. But raw reviewing the transmissions knew better. This wasn't trauma, this was war. They were being dismantled strategically, silently, and surgically. One soldier began suspecting his own teammate of sabotage. Fights broke out. Orders were ignored. Gunfire rang out in the dead of night, aimed at nothing. And still no Deathworlder ever appeared. Because they didn't have to. They let the council break itself. Then came the final straw. A transmission was intercepted from deep within the jungle. Static filled, broken, but chilling in its clarity. You are not prey. You are not predators. You are noise. Learn your place or be erased. When Council Commander received the recording, panic spread through the upper echelons. For the first time in centuries, they were outmatched not by force but by fear. The fear that every sensor could be wrong, that every watchtower was blind, that every breath might be monitored by something just outside their field of view. The fear of being known by something unknowable. Back in the field, Commander Rar made the call. He stood before his exhausted, broken soldiers and spoke firmly. We are not here to fight ghosts. We are here to understand the battlefield. But this battlefield is not soil or trees or traps. He tapped his temple. It's here, and they've already invaded. He ordered immediate withdrawal, not retreat, surrender, to rethink, to survive. And as the last dropship lifted into the toxic orange sky, eyes watched from the shadows. Silent, patient, victorious. Power crumbles in the hall. The grand hall of this Galactic Council, once the heart of interstellar order, now echoed with shouting. Delegates from over 100 star systems filled the tiered amphitheater in chaos. Voices layered over voices, accusations, demands, panic. The vast marble chamber lined with glowing banners of peace and unity was cracked by something more dangerous than war. Fear. Council leader Zara stood at the center, her normally steady voice drowned out by the frenzy around her. Order, she shouted again, striking the council's authority rod into the floor. We are not children in a market square. This is the council, but the illusion of control was already lost. General Rar stood off to the side, still in partial armor, his face drawn and sleepless. He hadn't spoken since returning. He didn't need to. His presence alone reminded everyone that something had gone horribly wrong. The Deathworlders are toying with us, shouted Renner, a representative from a military-dominated system. They're manipulating our minds, violating every accord. This is warfare. No, countered Torn, the blue-skinned delegate from the Yavari. We entered their space without consent. We provoked them, and they never struck first. It was us. They vanished our soldiers without firing a single shot, barked another. You call that peace? They protected their territory. Someone else yelled. They've never stepped beyond it. Zara raised her hand again, her voice finally cutting through. I understand your frustration. I share it. But rashness has cost us too much already. She turned toward the center display, a live feed from the now abandoned observation outpost. Cameras flickered, supplies scattered, symbols drawn in bright ash across walls and soil. Everything we thought we knew about control, they dismantled with whispers and shadows. This is not just strength. It's strategy beyond anything we've faced. Merrick, the young analyst, had stepped forward from the side dais. His voice trembled, but he spoke anyway. They're studying us as much as we're studying them. Every probe we sent, every patrol, every psychological reaction, we weren't just fighting shadows, we were being tested. Zara nodded solemnly, and we failed. The silence that followed was heavy, Then came a voice calm, deliberate from one of the few who had not yet spoken, Elder Lara, a weathered tactician from the Aurelian sector. Perhaps it is time we tried something different. Renner scoffed. You suggest surrender? No, Lara said, standing tall. I suggest humility. Gasps, murmurs. This council has faced warlords, cosmic plagues, and rebellion. We have always assumed that diplomacy comes after dominance, that peace must be earned through superiority. She turned toward the central chamber. But these beings, they do not operate on our logic. They don't seek conquest. They seek respect, survival, balance. And when we failed to understand that, they used our arrogance against us. Torn took a step forward, emboldened. Then maybe it's time we show them something else. Not force, not pity, but the willingness to listen. Rar finally spoke. His voice was low, controlled, and more dangerous than any war cry. I've seen their eyes. I've fought their warriors. I've felt the pressure of their world trying to break me. He looked around the room. They don't want our pity. They don't want our politics. They want us to survive their truth. And until we do, we will never be their equal. Zara's gaze moved across the chamber, weighing every face. Some still bore fury, some shame, but most finally carried realization. The council had not been facing a primitive race. They had been facing the mirror one that showed just how complacent they had become. At last she spoke. We will form a delegation, not of soldiers, not of spies, but diplomats trained to listen, not dictate. A gesture not of surrender, but of understanding. And if they reject it, someone asked from the crowd. Zara stared into the hologram of the death world, its storm-clouded surface pulsing like a living thing. Then we'll know, she said. We'll know the truth that war is not what they want. But if forced, they will show us how it's truly done. The chamber was quiet. For the first time in decades, the Galactic Council voted not on a battle plan, but on a conversation. The cost of trust. The sky over the death world was a burnt orange haze as the delegation ship descended. Unlike the previous landings, there were no weapons loaded, no armored troopers, no threat lingering behind a false smile. This time the ship carried only a message: we come not to conquer, but to understand. At its head was Commander Rar. He had insisted on leading the mission himself, not because of pride, but because he knew no one else could face the Deathworlders and survive the silence that came with their gaze. Jana the diplomat from the original contact mission stood beside him once again. This time she wore no robes of ceremony, only durable gear and a steady heart. No mistakes, she said quietly as the ramp hissed open. None, Ra replied. They stepped into the clearing where Kira had first greeted them with a challenge, not a welcome. And she was there, still, silent, watching. Behind her stood several others, scarred, powerful, unmoving. Not guards, not escorts, witnesses. Rar stepped forward and did something no commander had done before. He bowed. We come unarmed, he said clearly, raising his empty hands. And not for terms, not for power. We come to ask you, what do you want? Kira tilted her head. Her eyes scanned him not for lies, but for weakness. And when she spoke, her voice was low, like stone dragged across old wood. You want peace, she said, but your actions say otherwise. You sent spies, soldiers. You fired first. We did, Rar admitted. And we lost, not just in battle, but in understanding. Kira took a few steps closer. Her warriors didn't flinch, but the jungle seemed to shift. We have heard your kind speak of peace before. It often comes just before fire. Why should this time be different? Jana stepped forward. Because we're not here to teach you anything. We're here to learn. That made Kira pause. Rar took a slow breath. We offer knowledge, medicine, technology. In exchange, we ask to learn your survival methods. How you live, how you fight, how you think. Kira looked him straight in the eye. You want to know how we live? Then be ready to bleed like we do. Trust is not a word to us, it is a scar. Then she turned and gestured to the jungle. Walk with us. The delegation followed without hesitation, deeper into the trees, deeper into their world. What they saw was not a civilization in ruins, but a different kind of order. Villages carved into the cliffside, children training with elders, warriors sparring beside healers, gardens grown with brutal precision, each plant serving as food, medicine, or poison depending on how it was prepared. Everything was functional. Everything had purpose. Even beauty here was earned. For hours, they were tested not with blades, but with silence, with observation, with patience. And when they returned to the clearing, as the sun dipped low, Kira finally spoke again. We are not your enemies, she said, but we will never be your subjects. Rar nodded. We don't ask that. Then what do you ask? He looked around. At least a chance. There was a pause. Then Kira extended a hand not soft, not open, but firm, honest, weighted with consequence. Then show us. Bring your tools. Bring your minds, but do not bring lies. Or next time we won't let you leave. Rar took her hand. In that moment, a war ended not with surrender, but with respect hard-earned. Beneath the ashes, a fire still burns. The first sunrise after the handshake didn't feel like victory. It felt like a breath held too long. In the heart of the Death World, two camps now stood side by side, council envoys and Deathworlder tribes. They didn't share meals. They didn't laugh together, but they coexisted. And in this place that was nothing short of a miracle. Commander Rar and Kira met every morning. No guards, no weapons, just words. Progress came slowly, one bitter truth traded for one piece of insight. The council taught the use of medgel and disease filters. The Deathworlders taught how to use fungi as both shield and signal. The council shared orbital mapping systems. The Deathworlders showed them how to read wind and route patterns to predict predator movement. Every day was a risk. Every day no one died. And that for now was enough. But peace is a strange beast. It moves in silence until someone tries to tame it. One night, a supply drone from orbit arrived ahead of schedule. It carried tools, data tablets, and a hidden surveillance device unauthorized. The Deathworlders found it before the council did. They said nothing. They simply returned it. Crushed, melted, branded with a single word, trust. Rar's blood ran cold when he saw it. He called an emergency meeting. John and Kira, two council technicians, and 3 tribal warriors gathered around a dim campfire. Rar laid the wreckage in the center. This, he said tightly, was not part of our agreement. Kira stared at it, not with anger, with disappointment. I told you, she said, voice low. Trust is not a word, it is a scar. Rar's jaw clenched. This wasn't authorized. Someone in orbit overstepped. I'll deal with it. She looked at him sharply. Will you bleed for it? The words hit like a blade. Rar stood, unfastened his gauntlet, extended his hand toward the flame. Jana gasped, Commander! But Kira raised her hand. No, that's not the blood we need. She turned to the council delegates. We need action. You want to earn peace, then stop sending hidden eyes. Rar nodded slowly. Understood. Later that night, he sent a direct transmission to Council HQ. Purge all hidden surveillance and deactivate orbital probes. No further contact without my consent. Any breach of this command will be considered sabotage of an active peace mission. The council didn't argue, not because they agreed, but because they feared what would happen if they didn't. Weeks passed, and something strange began to take root. Children from both sides played in the same sand. A Deathworlder hunter asked a council scientist to explain what made stars scream during re-entry. A diplomat from the Avex species, known for arrogance, asked to train blindfolded in the jungle. And Kira, she smiled, once. But even in this fragile beginning, there were whispers. Not all Deathworlders welcomed the alliance. Some called the council a lurking sickness. Not all council factions trusted Rar's leadership. Some whispered, he's gone native. Kira met Rar at sunset one evening, eyes sharp as ever. They still fear each other, she said, even now. They should, Rar replied. Fear keeps people honest. She studied him. Do you? He didn't hesitate. Not anymore. She didn't smile, but she nodded. That is dangerous. The first joint operation took place 1 month later. A rogue storm system, one of the Deathworld's many apocalyptic tantrums, threatened both camps. It was the kind of storm that rips mountains in half. Council engineers deployed shield generators. Deathworlders deployed earth-binding stakes and redirected flood paths with controlled landslides. Together, they held the storm back. Together, they survived. Afterward, no one cheered. No one claimed victory. They simply looked at each other and understood that something had changed. Back in the council grand hall, the updates arrived not with fanfare, but with silence. Zara read every report. She saw not numbers, but names, not alliances, but memories. She stood before the chamber and declared, peace is no longer something we offer. Peace is something we must survive every day. And on that Deathworld, survival has become a shared language. And somewhere deep beneath the roots of a shattered world, a fire burned, not of hatred, not of conquest, but of something far more dangerous. Respect.